everybody. I am Noah Pfister with Showverse, and today we will be doing something very different, as today I am joined with the producer and director of Resurrection, a Biohazard Story, none other than Mr. Andrew Saullo. Andrew?
Well, thank you for having me. And thank you for renting these cameras for me.
No, as many of you are aware, I have usually done my interviews over Zoom or remotely. And Andrew, thankfully, has been in the same vicinity as I am this week, so he has graciously taken the time to come sit in and talk with me about his Resident Evil fan film.
Yeah.
Which, first off, you know, it's never been a better time to be a Resident Evil fan than it is now. Wouldn't you agree on that?
I think so. The Capcom seems to be releasing, a game, every other year maybe, and now you have the movie coming out, and they did have the CG movie that came out a couple years ago. So it seems like there's always something to keep it fresh.
No, obviously, and even then, even with fan-related things, we are still getting, quality levels of, I don't want to say content, but I guess more fan-approving things, because as many of us kind of know, Resident Evil was kind of in a shaky spot for well over half a decade after 6 came out. But we'll be discussing that later in this video. For now, I'd like to talk to you about your movie.
Okay.
Which is sort of a continuation of 1 and 3 and a little bit of 5.
Yeah.
And uses, believe it or not, the original actors that were used for the PS1 version of Resident Evil 1 way back in the day. So, first off, where did the idea for this film originate from?
Back in, I want to say 2022, what year did Welcome to Raccoon City come out? Was it like 2021?
Let me double check.
It was 2021.
Am I Jamie in this podcast?
Yes. Oh, yes. And by the way, behind the camera, we actually have
Alberto.
We have Alberto Triana, who actually, funny enough, was the DP for this movie as well. Please, go check out his work. He's truly phenomenal at what he does.
Yeah.
Thank you, Al.
Yeah.
But welcome to Raccoon City.
I think it came out like October
2021.
October 2021. I saw the movie. I was just like, bro, why? So, I think I was around 30 at the time, and I'm like, dude, I am not getting any younger. And this is something I've kind of always wanted to do, and there really aren't a whole lot of fan films in the space, in the internet space. And if there are, they were also incredibly loosely related to the game, which I don't understand. I mean, that's awesome, but even as a fan film director, why would you deviate so far from the game? I just never understood the desire to make everything but the source material that you're supposed to really like. But there was one that stood out to me, and it was made by Andy Sperling and Krishimir Knazovic, two filmmakers that live in Germany. So when I saw the movie, Welcome to Raccoon City, I reached out to a bunch of YouTubers. And JJ was one of them from Residents of Evil. Andy Sperling, it was Krishimir. I think I reached out to Krishimir first because I found his YouTube. And then it was JJ from Row. I reached out to a bunch of people. Those were the only two people that responded to me. And JJ was already working with Sean Liebert, who had made Dave, or I think it was later called Arclay. And that was supposed to be like grisly murders happening in the raccoon forest kind of thing. And it was amazing. And they were supposed to do a sequel to that called The Keeper. And that's what I wanted to do. So he was like, well, we're working with Sean Liebert, so I don't know if we could do this. So that's when I reached out to Krishimir. Because I saw his stuff he did with Andy Sperling. And it was just like a literal one-to-one of the team getting into the mansion, investigating, finding the turning head zombie. If you haven't seen it, go look it up on YouTube. It's like the most immaculate one-to-one creation, and the way they did it for the budget they had, and how it just so accurately looks exactly like the game is just crazy. So we started to push forward with them, but it just got a little too complicated to do things over in Germany when a lot of things are over here. And Sean Liebert never ended up pursuing the Keeper project. So then everything kind of just went over to JJ with Row. And then Andy Cox from Biohazard Declassified stepped in to help out crowdfunding and things like that. And at some point, I think I was still with Krishimir at the time, and I was like, should I reach out to some of these? Like, I found Charlie on LinkedIn, and I found Eric on LinkedIn. He's like, yeah, reach out. So I reached out, and they gave me Greg's Facebook. So I reached out to him too, and I ended up just paying for his flight to come over from Australia, and it was a lot cheaper for Eric and Charlie because they're both in the States. So like, can you be in Utah on this weekend? And they came out. I had a whole slate of videos that some friends helped me film back in Utah. I filmed the teaser for The Keeper's Diary. It was like the initial concept teaser. I filmed an interview with all three of them. I filmed them playing the game for the first time. And we went out to like a salt flat, like 45 minutes down the road from me, just in the middle of the desert. That's where the concept came from, because I had Charlie in his like tactical BSAA style gear, and then I have like this pea coat that I just put on Eric, and he had a black t-shirt, and I just like kind of wide angle straight shot. They're walking into frame, and Eric said, I'm a god or something, because he came back to life, and then it just ended. It was just a super short thing, and I was kind of intending it to be like the beginning of the interview. And then JJ saw it, and he wanted everything on the channel, and it had me become a road team member, and that's kind of how things shifted from Andy and Krishimir in Germany over to Row. And we made The Keeper's Diary, and then when The Keeper's Diary wrapped up, we were like, do we want to, elaborate more on this resurrection idea? And that's when I asked Beggy if she wanted to help me write it. And it kind of just fell into place from there.
Peggy being the...
Addie Atavane.
Right, Addie Atavane, who is the writer and one of the other producers for the film.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, whichever camera looking at this one, link is in the description below. Be sure to check it out. It is well worth your time. But no, continue on.
Yeah, that film that little short that you can find it on the Road channel. I think it's just called Resident Evil Resurrection. That's what we called it at the time. But
link
that's
also in the description.
Yeah, that's where it all stemmed from. Really, was way back when I did that with them.
And one of the big selling points of this movie is that it does actually use, the original cast. You have Charlie Kreslowski, Eric Parias, Greg Smith, Linda, Annie Reg, and including Ava, who comes back, who voiced Sheva in Resident Evil 5.
Yeah.
Now, this is a big deal as you are reuniting the cast of the OG Resident Evil 1.
Yeah.
What was it like to, one, get them all back? Did it take a lot of convincing? Or, was it just a simple, you want to do this? Sure, I'm there. Mm-hmm. And what was it like working with them?
Amazing. It wasn't so hard to convince them back in 2022 to come out and do stuff with me. And it wasn't really that hard. I was like, do you guys want to do a big thing? And Greg is like the most like, yeah, because he was a school principal for his whole life. I mean, these guys just kind of worked a handful of gigs in the late 90s, and then that was it. I think Charlie went on to do like, he tried to pursue acting in various ways, and he was also like, driver and production assistant and stuff like that on a bunch of productions. So I don't think any of them really have a terrible amount of experience in acting. So they were all just gung-ho about it. What's interesting is we had found Linda in 2023, and trying to word this in a way where it doesn't reveal too much, because she very much enjoys having a private life and not having people contact her left and right. But,
right, obviously.
Yeah, so I think it was through the folks from the Raccoon City Stars blog who were the people that originally found these people. Either reached out to me or Greg and said, here's Linda's information. Greg sent her a message on Facebook, I think, and then, forwarded her over to me. And then I was able to just introduce myself, and I told her I was going to be in the area where she was at, and I was like, if you want, we can go get lunch or coffee, and I have these ideas, and I could tell you all about this game and how what you did kind of spawned a multi-billion-dollar franchise. And she's like, no, just come on over to the house. I'm like, okay, I mean, I don't really know you, but, she has her kids and family there, and the amount of trust that she puts in me still shocks me to this day. But I was like, we can totally just meet at a coffee place, it's fine. But met her house, met her family, very nice, and I told her, we want to do this with you. We can do interview, let's play, just like we did before with the other three. Also want you to come back as Rebecca in a fan film. She seemed to be all for it. And then I think it was late 2023, early 24, we got her involved and got all four of them together this time. And we filmed the interviews, the crowdfunding video. We did a lot of stuff at once with her. I don't even remember what the original question was.
No,
Just keep going on.
Well, hey, no worries. That's the whole point of this. It's to, one, get your perspective, and two, this is a fan film. You are a fan. I'm a fan. It's very easy to get lost in the Resident Evil discussions. But no, it was a matter of getting them back, either reaching out or... Like, for example, the guy who plays Albert Wesker, his name is...
Eric Pirius.
I don't know why I kept thinking it was Prius. I feel like that's really...
Pablo Kunst, by the way, who he lives in the UK, but he voices Wesker in the first game. And he was the guy that played Walt Witherby on the TV show that Chris was watching in the fan film.
Oh.
Yeah. So between him and Eric Pirius, they both portrayed Wesker in the first game.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
And
it's weird. I just ask these people, and they just say yes.
Really? Was it really just that simple? Wow.
Even Allison.
Really?
Allison, so we originally pitched, we wanted her to play Sheva's role. But Allison, I think, is more of because this is more of like a drama, dialogue-heavy piece, and there's some zombies in it.
Right.
I think she's more like, I want straight-up horror. So then Beggy and I were like, well, maybe we could, reduce the role to Linda, or maybe we could ask Eva and see what she says. So that's what we did. And then Eva and I, we just connected really good, and she seemed to like what we were doing and made sure everything was okay with the agents and all that. And yeah, that's kind of, and Allison, I came back to her, and I was like, what if we just did this as a small thing after the credits? And she's like, okay, let's do it. So,
which, by the way,
we flew out to Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, which, by the way, I probably should have said spoiler.
I mean, if you haven't seen it, yeah.
Yeah, obviously. But no, there is an end credit scene with Claire.
Yep.
Which, super badass. But the biggest surprise for me, as a more recent Resident Evil fan, is to see Sheva actually come into the fray, and being portrayed by her actual actress, Ava Ladere. And before we move on, I do want to know, you basically have the original actor who played Chris, who is one of
They also have the remake Chris.
Really?
The angry military general guy that got shot.
Oh, no kidding.
So it's like Chris shot Chris.
Oh, of course. no subtlety there, but I do want to know, as a fan myself, what was it like shooting the scene that is essentially, whether or not you want to call it canon, is, up to the viewer.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen these two on screen together. We haven't even seen Sheva.
Chris and Sheva?
Yeah, we haven't even seen Sheva even be mentioned since the game released since Resident Evil 5 back in...
It's weird. Capcom seems to just make the habit of creating iconic characters as just throwaway characters. So, or was it Grace Ashcroft?
Yeah, Grace Ashcroft is
I highly doubt she'll be in another game.
Oh my! You see, that is that. Hold on.
It's just how they operate.
Hold on, because I know the route that we're about to go down. If we talk about that, I want to save that for a bit later. Because, like I said, for the second half of this, we will in fact be essentially having a very much fan discussion on Resident Evil as a brand.
Yeah. And
the opinions of two sort of insane fanboys from two separate generations.
Yeah.
But what was it like essentially shooting a reunion scene between these two characters who haven't actually had one who haven't had an interaction since that 5 released 2009?
Yeah.
And on top of that, you have the original actor who played Chris actually being introduced to Sheva. What was it like shooting that scene in particular? Because I'm sure, you as a fan, we're kind of like...
I was. It's funny, when I do these things, I don't really have a moment to really take it in or process it.
Oh.
So, like, I just did a bunch of stuff in Japan that you guys will see coming out soon. Sitting next to some pretty important, prominent figureheads who've spawned Resident Evil, essentially. I still am like, did we just do that? You know what I mean? So, also when you're doing these things, you're like, when you're running the show, you need to run the show. Like, you can't, there's no room for error. So we had strategically planned it for her to come in this time. We had the whole day with her, and then she was out. Like, that was her schedule, because she had to be back to do some other shows or commercials or stuff like that.
Right.
So it's interesting, because obviously Charlie, different game, same character.
Right.
And I know she's personal friends with Roger Craig Smith, who voices Chris in 5.
Yeah.
But the concept of having... Here's my thing. I just think it's so interesting and unique to kind of blend all these different generations together. And if I had the opportunity to take someone from this current generation, like Nicole Tompkins or Jeff Shine or Nick Apostolidis, like, that would never happen, because I think they're just so heavily, they're not allowed to do stuff probably outside of what, Capcom allows them to do. Right. I would imagine. I don't know. It would be cool, because you could have a blending of all these different generations of Resident Evil fans. Like, I'm a fan of Eva, I'm a fan of Charlie, I'm a fan of Nick Apostolidis. But it seems like there's just such a generational divide within the franchise. It just seems so divided at every level, but still at the same time oddly united, especially after seeing Requiem come out.
Which is now currently the fastest selling Resident Evil game of all time.
Yeah, but to have them interact, I thought was the coolest thing in the world, like you were asking. But it's just, I can't take time to really take it in, because I'm just trying to like this. I'm trying to set up the cameras, and Berto was doing that, but I was just trying to maintain and make sure everything's running smoothly.
No, and I do think that speaks to the level of your professionalism. Yeah. Despite this being a fan film, this is still film. Yeah. You had a job as both producer and director to get the job done, which highly respect. Mm-hmm. Highly respect. But it is at least nice to hear after the fact that you enjoy the idea of essentially bringing together the generations of Resident Evil fans. And
it's just, if you go on Twitter, it just seems like everyone's yelling at each other, and it's like, I feel like if you were to just, as the person in charge, do something to bring people together, that would be amazing. Clearly, the old heads like me. So a lot of us like Requiem's awesome, but there's a lot of old heads that don't like the new stuff, and there's a lot of younger generations that don't like the older stuff. I just feel like you could do so much to blend that together and to bring people together, but it just doesn't happen.
No,
and I have no idea why.
And like I said, we'll get to that
Yeah,
at some point. I do apologize. I do apologize on that front,
No,
but there is something I do want to know, which is a lot of this was in fact crowdsourced to help pay for the budget.
Yep.
What was that process like?
Grueling. Very grueling.
Oof.
So me, Beggy, and Andy Cox from Biohazard Declassified essentially... I mean, most of this was spearheaded by me and Beggy. I mean, me and Beggy worked very closely for like essentially 2 years straight. We were meeting every single day. I would kind of like figure out what we need and see how much it would cost, and I would just put it on a spreadsheet. And then we would go to Andy, and he would kind of like hone in on the numbers from there. And then, so Andy's really good at, he's a numbers guy, but he's really good at running and maintaining a crowdfunding campaign. So it was just a really meticulously, painstakingly long process of putting a budget together and working with those two to effectively get it done.
And, like you mentioned earlier that you essentially made a trailer of sorts.
For the Keeper's Diary?
Yeah, for the Keeper's Diary. And I'm guessing that was used to help secure, hey guys, this is kind of what we kind of had in mind.
Not for Resurrection, but for when I was doing Keeper's Diary, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Because I wasn't even working with the channel. I just was, I think I was, that's when I reached out to JJ, and he was working with Sean Liebert, and that's when I reached out to the guys in Germany. So essentially, they were there in Germany, and I just did all this stuff, and I paid for all the flights, and I built the set by myself, and so that was for the Keeper's Diary, and that's kind of what sparked all of it, was that weekend I did all those videos. And then when we found Linda, and I pitched all this stuff to her, and we got all 4 of them together in the Row studio, that's when stuff with Resurrection really started to ramp up. So, and that was like 2023, 2024.
And is that how long the crowdfunding campaign lasted? When exactly did it start?
The crowdfunding campaign was, I think, about 2 months. And that was early 2025? When, do you remember when it started? Because we filmed in August of last year.
It ran through like May and June or something.
So everything happened really fast.
Because then we got the funding, then it was like, all right, time to go.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit.
Yeah. And we had already planned, like, everybody set 2 weeks aside, even if we don't hit our goal. So it was like everybody had their time free, so they knew to be here if we hit our crowdfunding goal.
Shit, man.
Yeah.
And what was the original set goal that you guys had for the budget of Resurrection?
$250,000.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought that was like the stretch goal. I thought the original was like...
Oh, it was 200,
Yeah,
and then
like
there were
200.
like
Then,
tiers.
then we kept going.
That's right.
Yeah. And what was I know we said this earlier, but for dramatic effect, I'll ask again.
Yeah.
What did the actual final number for what you guys got equate to, actually?
I think it was around 250 plus. We reopened the campaign to pay some back-end costs to help with Blu-rays and some CGI stuff, but it was around 250,000 at the end.
Damn. So you met your goal and even surpassed it just like a little bit.
Yeah.
Wow. This is by all amounts, apologies, an independent movie. So when you finally got all that money, what did that feel? How did that feel like for you and for the crew?
It's weird because I do everything through my LLC, and I have like my personal account, my business account, and I started a separate account strictly for all like these crowdfunded projects. So it's weird because you get this large sum of money just deposited into your account, and it's like, well, I've never made this amount of money in my life. and then you just spend it so fast because like we were saying, they all had to be here, so you have to have all this stuff ready for when the cast and crew gets there. So it's like you'd be surprised at how fast you can spend $250,000. It's insane.
No, I said I have a set budget for myself with just my job and what I pay for alone.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. You work so long to get all this money, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing at the end of the day, it felt like a massive relief when you were finally able to hit that budget. Only for during shooting, you're just like, oh, and there it goes.
It's chaos.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
But and with making any movie or even a live event, which Al can more than attest to, there's always going to be chaos when it comes to making any form of entertainment. Mm-hmm. So that leads me to my next question, which essentially is, how would you describe shooting on set? Like, would you say the atmosphere was controlled? Was it chaotic? Were there good days, bad days, which there are always going to be good days and bad days on set. But how would you describe the overall atmosphere on set?
It was controlled in a sense that we had planned so well to a T, to make sure things happen in the events something does happen. Maybe with the exception of one thing, like we shot in the big fight scene in that dirt area. Like if it rained, there's nothing we can do. You know what I mean? Luckily it didn't rain. But everything else for the most part, it was like we had planned specifically, like we just knew what to do. Everyone showed up and they knew what to do. Like I had meetings with all the actors. Like your performance is, we all have full-time jobs. We can't, dedicate all this time like probably Brad Pitt or someone does. So it's like, just come, show up, memorize your lines. That's the most important thing. So they did that. Everybody kind of just showed up, locked in, and in that sense, it was controlled. It was chaos, but it was controlled chaos. It was positive. I don't think anybody felt any negative energy at all during production. Everybody seemed to have a good time. But yeah, it was very much like ready to go, and it was intense. I mean, we got maybe 3 hours of sleep some night. Well, it was some days because it was mostly overnights. So this guy freaking hit a deer.
Wait, Al, you hit a deer?
The deer hit me.
Well, my understanding was just a little,
he just bounced.
slowed down.
He jumped out of the bush, bounced, and then went back into the bush.
There was a lot of things that happened, man. So he hit a deer. Everybody was okay. The deer was okay, but Dan, our armorer and our medic, his truck like pretty much died. One of our production assistants got hit in the head with a pipe from one of the wall tents that we built. That tent actually was supposed to be a wall tent that we built, and the wind just tore the metal up. So luckily the dude that owned the property has this like kind of pole barn kind of thing, and he let us use that, and we just draped the canvas on the sides. That's what you see in the movie. But it was all kinds of that.
Okay, so controlled chaos, yes. Then of course there are things that you sometimes can't control, such as a pipe hitting someone in the face, or a deer going face first into your truck.
Yeah.
But by the way, quick question: this, according to the film, this was actually shot in about 4 or 5 different locations. You had places in Utah, you had London, you had Germany, and even
second unit stuff. Yeah.
Which there are some very truly like amazing establishing shots, and so I'm guessing that's where some of those locations that you're able to grab came from. Germany, UK, and I think even Wyoming, if that's was it Wyoming?
No, so there's a lot of stock type footage for a lot of the wider stuff, but the UK was the scene with Pablo for the television Witherby scene, and the Germany stuff was the flashbacks where you see young Chris, young Wesker, young Richard from Resident Evil 1.
Right.
So he shot that there, and then we went to Toronto for Allison's thing.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And because I want to get into the gun scene, which happens towards the end of the film, but
the Samurai Edge.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to that. But that was one of my personal favorite moments.
Really?
In the movie, because and then again, that's also because I've been playing through all the games.
Yeah.
And, I found out the significance of that gun as a whole. So, and canonically, Chris does lose it. Like he loses it after the first game.
Yeah.
So it was as a fan, it was a sweet moment to actually see him get reunited with essentially the weapon that started him on this journey.
We had more for that, by the way, but time kind of was not on our side.
I'll elaborate on that.
So Chris, he has a holstered gun, and
Yes.
you can see it, but he was supposed to use it at some point, and it was supposed to be Wesker's, as if he held on to it all these years.
Yeah.
So it's like, in a weird way, they're kind of weird friendship, even though they hate each other. So it's like, I held on to your gun and I held on to my gun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a good rivalry, honestly, goes a long way, and I'm sure any fan will say that, as much as we have Leon and Jill, the two real leads of this franchise have always been Chris and Wesker, because they have always been the big picture sort of people.
They've had the biggest vendetta.
Yeah, exactly, and Leon has always been more of the grounded sort of tale. But I want to know, looking back, what was your, this is a two-parter.
Yeah.
What was your favorite moment on set, and what is your personal favorite part of the movie?
Oh man.
Don't worry, you can take your time.
Favorite moment on set? It's hard to pick. Maybe.
I was like, I swear you say when Berto hit it.
Sorry. Maybe the bar scene when Greg and Annie were talking about their, Annie was kind of venting about her past trauma. Because, we filmed all the action stuff, her, pushing that drunk dude into the table. And then we, reset to finish up the rest of that night. And it was like, okay, ready to go, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm not kidding, Greg was a school principal his whole life. He was walking on the street in Japan. He happened to be there teaching English classes or something like that, and these guys from Capcom were like, "You want to be in a video game?" He was like, "Yes, let's do it." That's how he got to play Barry Burton in those cutscenes. And then he went back to Australia and was a school principal for 30 years until these guys tracked him down on the internet from the Raccoon City Stars blog, who I've chatted with to be able to do all this stuff. He was so excited. He was the most energetic and excited about it. He's the most energetic person you will probably ever meet in your entire life. He's 70. And I'm like, I'm tired, I want to go to bed. You know what I mean?
Oh no, obviously. It's when passion overtakes anything, it's like, holy shit, it's infectious. I can feel it.
It's very infectious. So when I'm not expecting, I'm like, memorize your lines and I'll be happy. We say action, he's like, Jill, I'm sorry, Jill. I was like, oh my god, what's going on here?
He just snapped into it.
He just snapped into it. And then, Annie's crying. I'm like, this is pretty cool.
No, and so it's
really quick. Sorry.
Go.
And then we did the scene in the set, and he looks at the painting and he goes, "What the hell?" And we're just like, "Oh, Greg, no." So it's like you kind of have to get him to I wish I had more time to direct, because I feel like I had more time to really hone in on some of their performances. I feel like there's some scenes where I was able to help Linda a little bit more, and then some scenes were just flat. But again, it's we're on the go, we're trying to film stuff, and they don't their experience is limited.
Yeah, you're on a schedule.
But I feel like people appreciate it. They appreciate it for what it is, and they kind of largely understand that. But it was just so cool to see Greg in that moment in the bar.
No, and that actually kind of goes more into, this is now more of a discussion on certain elements that you find throughout the movie. Actually, wait, no, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
I actually would like to know, because when you finally had it edited, all together, the final cut of the whole ordeal. Which
Yeah.
this is amongst one of your like first feature films, is it not?
Technically, I mean, I made one when I was like just out of high school, but it was like not even anything close to this.
So first, let's combine that with this next question. How did you feel delivering that final cut when everything was said and done, when it was properly mixed, properly edited?
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel? Describe to me what was going through your head. Were you like, oh God, I want to do this again? Or was like a weight lift off your shoulders and you're like, oh my God, I can finally relax?
Mm-hmm.
Or were you just like, I can't wait to show this to people? Or was it a mix of everything? Elaborate on that.
I would say kind of a mix of everything. Yeah, like usually when I finish these things, like even with the Keeper's Diary, it was like I need to hibernate for a week, you know. Yeah, this one, even the post-production process on this one was so grueling because I really, really wanted to hit that March 22nd deadline for the 30-year anniversary. Everyone was telling me, no, you guys, the 30-year anniversary is the whole year. Just release it later this year. You'll have more time. Yeah, but I mean, to me, it was more significant and impactful to release it on the 30-year mark. So I mean, I put a lot of people under a lot of stress and pressure, but they all came through to get it done, and they all worked very, very hard to make that deadline. So it was a relief. It was exciting. It was obviously, you know, there's people that don't like it because the bad acting or whatever. But for the most part, I think a lot of people largely understood what it is and what it's meant to be, and just enjoyed it for what it is. So it was nice to see that reaction, and yeah, now I am working on the next one with Beggy.
Oh, well then I guess that answers one of my other questions I was going to ask,
Yeah.
because the film does sort of end on this pretty, well, it ends on two cliffhangers. One with Wesker escaping,
Yeah.
and one with a sort of a new version of Mr. X currently going after Claire.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing we can expect a sequel at some point in the near future.
Well, me and Beggy are working on something, but not a sequel.
Oh, okay.
This was the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life, and it was the most draining in every possible way you could think of. And I think Beggy and I are just ready to move on to the next. Like, we want to make an actual movie now. So.
Oh, well, that's actually
Yeah.
very interesting.
And we do have some other people involved, but I think just for now, I can just say Beggy and I are working on it.
Well, I look forward to figuring out, excuse me, what that is as more details are released.
Yeah.
But now I actually kind of want to get into certain fanfare moments in the movie, whether that be fan service or connections to the games actually being portrayed as, you know, memories. Like, for example, there are a couple moments that, for me particularly, I was like, okay, this does feel like Resident Evil. The first one being Jill at the bar reminiscing about the events of 5 with, you know, the gem
the
attached.
scar.
Now, when you were writing that, was this something that you thought, you know, Jill would be traumatized by this, so if there's a reason for her to be at a bar, it would be to not to reminisce, but to kind of reflect on that moment? Was that something you were actively pushing for, or was it just seemed like it was,
Yeah.
you know?
So, Beggy wrote most of it, and a lot of it's mostly her ideas, but there are some things like that I originally wrote and kind of maybe fully wrote or in concept that still trickled its way into the movie, and that was one of them. So I just really wanted to have this like PTSD moment where she's in a bar and she's thinking about these things from her past. Some of the stuff also was like the tactical stuff in the tunnels with the zombies. I think that was like originally something I had came up with that Beggy kind of blended into her story. And I got a lot of inspiration from that, from like maybe Sicario and was that Mission and the Modern Warfare remake where they're clearing the house with the night vision goggles.
Oh, right.
I thought that was pretty cool, and I kind of wanted to implement that with like the Hound Wolf Squad somehow, which we called the Wolf Squadron. But yeah, Beggy mostly wrote. I mean, this is almost all her work, and she has a really big influence with what's his name, William Blake, who is a painter who painted that painting that Chris was looking at on the TV. The flea, the
right.
big flea monster.
Yeah, right.
So she has a lot of inspirations from him, and I'd have to go back and ask her, but a lot of the stuff, she just is so passionate about a lot of these writers and painters.
Which actually, that kind of leads me to what I think is not necessarily the best moment in the movie.
Yeah.
But there is a sequence that involves 4 paintings.
Yeah.
And to me personally, that is unironically the most Resident Evil thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you have these characters sitting down reminiscing about the past, trying to fight Wesker. You have throwbacks to events from the first game, from 5, a little bit of 3.
Yeah.
But that whole puzzle after they kill, what's her face after, with the rope.
The noble woman with the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Them trying to solve a puzzle
mm-hmm.
using, Jill trying to solve the puzzle with the painting.
Yeah.
Was the most Resident Evil thing I have, even with all the stupid Paul W.S. Anderson movies, and all these other fan films that I've watched.
Yeah.
That whole sequence is the most Resident Evil thing I've seen, and I gotta know, how did you conceptualize that? Was that Becky's work, or was that
the whole concept of that scene was hers. I don't know if the puzzle. I think maybe the puzzle part of it was me, but she is so closely. It's so deeply personal to Beggy. You have no idea the 4 paintings and when the noble woman's heart explodes, and then it cuts to the that's really personal for Beggy. But in terms of the unlocking sequence, I think maybe I just thought it would be cool because you just don't see this stuff in any live action formats. I'm like, man, I need to do this and then put the little snake here and unlocks the door. I was like, it just makes sense to me. Same thing with the first aid stuff. The first aid spray in the beginning with the herb mixing. I was like, can we have the field medic of the game do some field medic stuff with the stuff from the game, like the herbs,
No, and that's...
You would think, but Hollywood doesn't do that.
Oh no, trust me, we'll get into that. But one of the final things, at least for this segment, that I'd want to say, in reflection of the fan film, is that I think I mentioned to you before we started filming, there is a lot of passion that is in this movie. Yeah. And say what you will about certain acting sequences or certain levels of budgetary restrictions.
Yeah.
I think that the passion is what comes through the most when watching it. Because, like I said, Chris's Samurai Edge at the very end of the film. Mm-hmm. Sheva's interactions with Chris. Jill kind of recovering from the events of RE5. And even something as small as watching Rebecca Chambers actually make health spray and the painting puzzles, which are very prevalent in most of Resident Evil games.
Yeah.
I have to commend you for those things, because there's a difference between showing respect and fan service. Yeah. And one thing that I will not say about this movie is that it's fan service for the sake of fan service.
Right.
You have a level of respect not just for the games, but for the IP within itself. That's why you brought back the original cast. That's why you included Sheva. That's why you included all of these things. Uh-huh. You and your team have a great measure of respect for this IP.
Thank you.
And I felt it as a viewer just as much as I would as a critic. And I really do want to say, Andrew, that you have made a truly special movie that I want every single one of you who's currently watching, even you, Al, sitting behind the camera.
I've seen it.
I mean,
lived it.
he did live it. No, but I want all of you to please go watch this movie. I mean, we are on the 30-year anniversary of Resident Evil. I mean, we have all these remakes. We have Requiem. We even have a new game. Sorry, new movie coming out from writer and director Zach Krieger.
Yeah.
And you know, it's never been a better time to be a Resident Evil fan. And for those of you, I just like to finish at least this section off by saying, go watch his movie now. It is well worth your time because a lot of very passionate people made it, and it is far better and far more entertaining than some movies that we even see getting released today. And I usually like to make this comparison. If you have two burgers in front of you, you have one from McDonald's and then you have one you made yourself. Sure, there are going to be times where you're going to prefer a McDonald's burger, but the one you make yourself is going to be the one that tastes a lot better. And I believe your film is a nice homemade burger.
Thank you.